Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos, and I'm a life coach, relationship coach, and breakup coach. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing your ex misses this about you. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Subscribe to my weekly support emails. The link is in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing your ex misses this about you. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you might be surprised to hear that your ex misses something about you. This is something so powerful that it can be the key to getting them back. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing the key thing that your dumper misses about you, along with 2 honourable mentions. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is honourable mention number 1, and that is your smell. Now this could be for good or for bad, and before you laugh when you may hear me say, yes, your ex remembers your smell, and this could be for good or for bad, but it's absolutely true, and also very, very important. Now when we consider what memories are based upon, you wouldn't necessarily think straight away that smell would be so powerful, if you excuse the pun. But the truth is that it's right at the top. Depending on the research that you read and the research that you look into, you will often see that smell is one, if not the most powerful triggers of memories that there can be. And therefore, it goes to reason that your ex-dumper will potentially miss the way you smell, and that can act on your behalf in potentially reconnecting. Now, as I said at the beginning of this point, this could be for good or for bad, and both of the honourable mentions that I'm going to be speaking about in today's podcast are the same within that. It could be for good, but unfortunately it could also be bad. If your ex-dumper didn't like the way you smelt, well, this isn't going to help your cause in reconnection, because it is something they're likely going to remember. But if they did like the way you smelt, then this can be really useful as a tool to increase the chance of getting your ex back without you even having to do anything now post-breakup. Now let's just say, for instance, that you wore a certain perfume or cologne or aftershave or whatever it was that you might have worn. Maybe you had a signature smell. Now if your ex-dumper was to ever smell that smell again, well, they're going to be thinking of you, and those memories are going to come flooding back. This can be a way of where you can come into their mind, even if you haven't seen, spoke to, even if your ex-dumper hasn't read anything about you on social media, for instance. They don't have to have had any connection whatsoever, and then years later, they smell your signature scent, and you come flooding back into their mind. Now, hopefully, you're not having to wait years. Hopefully, it's not even months, although months is much more realistic than weeks or certainly days. The point is that smell can really work for you. The way you smelt can not only be a trigger to make your ex-dumper think of you, but it can be something that they actively miss. Something that in the moments of where somebody's just wondering and pondering and daydreaming about things, that can come into their mind. And if you want to get your ex back, you need everything possible to work for you. And this might be something you didn't even think was. We often talk about strategies and behaviours and things as a dumpee you need to do post-breakup. But this is something which is already in the bag. This is something which, irrespective of what you think and do right now, is already going to be working for you. So although it might seem somewhat random and kind of funny, as I've been alluding to throughout, this is something which could be the difference between your ex-dumper reaching out to you or not. Because if you are not on your ex-dumper's mind, they are not going to be thinking about you, hopefully missing you, rebuilding and regrowing romantic emotional attraction, and eventually getting to the stage of where they miss you enough to reach out. Triggers count, triggers matter, and one of the biggest is the way that you smell. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please give this video a like and let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is honourable mention number 2, and that is how you made them feel safe. Now remember, when I was speaking in point number 1, I said both of the honourable mentions can work for you or against you. And this is definitely the case with point number 2, because that is how you made them feel safe. This is something that your ex-dumper can definitely miss about you, the dumpee. But if you didn't make them feel safe in the relationship, well, unfortunately, this could be working against you, certainly not working for you. So what do I mean by about how you made them feel safe? Now, this could be in a literal sense. It could be that you physically made them feel safe, whether this was at home, whether this was when you were out places. Maybe you were the type of person who really physically looked after and protected your now former partner. This is something that they will remember. This is something that they're not going to forget. And this is something which can really pull you towards them in their own mind as they move through their life, especially if they meet new people who do not have those skills, that ability, that feeling that you gave them. If they don't meet new people that give anything like that, you are going to be on their mind. But it's not just about the physical sense. It's not just about you protecting them in a physical way. No, this can mean emotionally as well. Perhaps you are the type of person who almost enabled your ex-dumper to open up, to release emotion, to be vulnerable in a way that they haven't been before and they haven't been since. Those things, those feelings, that mindset is not going to be easily forgotten or ever forgotten by your ex-dumper. So if you were in a relationship where your ex-dumper didn't feel safe in whatever way this can connect, then sadly, like I said, this isn't going to be helping you. If anything, it might be actively going against you, especially if they do meet someone who does make them feel those feelings. But if you did make them feel safe, whether it was physically, emotionally, spiritually, if you were both vulnerable together, building that bond in a way that you know deep down that only you two would ever have. You know deep down that they couldn't find that bond with anybody else. That is going to work for you. Now, it could be something which they think about irrespective of them meeting a new person, or it could be a scenario where, ironically enough, dumpees, you almost need your ex-dumper to meet someone new to then see that they will never get that protection from someone else for them to then miss you. Now, it might sound a bit of a paradox, it might sound somewhat messed up, it might sound something that you don't want to happen. But again, sometimes a dumper might not need that. They might not need to meet someone new for this realization to become and pulling them closer towards you. However, sometimes it needs to take place. Sometimes a dumper will need to meet someone new, if not more than one person, to come to that realization that they will never meet someone who protected them physically and or emotionally like you did. Now, whether as a dumpee you feel good about this, happy about this, maybe you think, well, if my ex-dumper dates anybody else, I don't want them back. Listen, that's your prerogative. That's your decision. I'm not going to sway you either way on that, but what I would say is that if you want your ex back, you might need to consider that they perhaps need to find out that you are not going to be beaten by anybody else. And the only way they can do that is to meet someone new. So sometimes, in a somewhat twisted way, the fact that your ex-dumper might go on a few dates is actually not a bad thing. It might actually bring them closer towards you much sooner than if they didn't. Whether or not you like that dumpees, I'm not saying for certain. I'm not trying to sway you, but it's your choice. However, you might be waiting longer if you want them to come to their own conclusion without comparing and contrasting you with someone else. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. This is the best and diamond level of support that I can provide. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is the key thing that they miss. So in today's podcast, we're talking about what your ex-dumper misses about you. And so far, we've spoke about the honourable mentions. But now we're moving on to the key. We're moving on to the main element and the thing. And that it is something which could be that key element to one day reconnecting with your dumper. And that is the feeling that you gave them when you first connected. Now let me explain exactly what I mean. I don't necessarily mean the very first time that you saw one another, that feeling that you felt. Now, some of you listening will say, yes, I met my ex and it was love at first sight. Now, in those instances, maybe this is somewhat what I'm referring to, but generally, I'm speaking about things that were felt beyond that point. I'm not really talking about the love at first sight concept. I'm talking about when you became committed to one another. And for most people, this will be a number of dates down the line. It could be months, certainly weeks, before you get to this stage. And then we need to really understand, what is that feeling that you gave them when you first connected? This can be used to your advantage, dumpees, as a way and as a tool to increase the chance of one day getting your ex back. If you can figure out exactly what the feeling was that you gave them when you first connected. Because when you first connected, in a romantic sense, when you agreed to be each other's partners, when you became exclusive, this meant that they were feeling something so powerful that they wanted to commit to you. What was those feelings? What was that thing, if it was one thing rather than multiple things, that you gave your now ex-dumper? What was it? What was that concoction of feelings that you gave them? Because it was intoxicating. It was something that they felt that they needed and they craved so much that they would be loyal to you. Now, if you can figure out exactly what this was, what this is where you can really start to concentrate on your own journey moving forward to increase the chance of getting your ex back by somewhat living your life in a way where you can generate those feelings again. Now, you've got to understand that we all move forward, we all evolve. You cannot be exactly the same person that your ex-dumper first met. If you were, it is unlikely to be good enough to reconnect, because it's probably been months, if not years, if not decades since that time. Growth, evolution, age, we've all changed. But you need to understand where you were at that point, the feelings you gave your ex at that time, and almost imagine what the trajectory would have been if you had carried on doing what you were doing. Was it your behavior? Was it your confidence? Was it your style? What was it? What were the combination of things? What feelings did you give your ex-dumper that they didn't believe they could find elsewhere? Unfortunately, right now, they believe that they can find the feelings they crave in a different situation to you. They've decided to walk away. Why is that? What has changed? Now remember what I said. This isn't about thinking exactly what you were like at the time and thinking, right, I need to be that person. No, you need to be an evolution of that person on the upward trajectory that you should have been if you had continued to live your life in a way where you satisfied and fulfilled your partner. Now, this might sound complex. This is the type of thing that I can speak to you about through my audio coaching service if you believe it could help you. But the reality is, the feeling that you gave your ex-dumper when you first romantically connected is the key. It is the secret sauce. It's the power. It's something that your ex-dumper couldn't find anywhere else, gave up being single due to that fact. And if you can understand what that was, what it could be, and what it should be now, your behavior, your attitude, your lifestyle, if and when you speak again, you can be showcasing this. These are the things which can make the difference. And it's really important you understand what it is that your ex-dumper misses about you.